Hi there, my name is D.D. McLeod Soulspeak, and I am going to share with you today a little bit of my process in preparing for the, what is it called? The One Sound Resound contest on SoundPaint. So I was thinking about this, the whole thing, the idea of cats. And the first thing that came to my mind, aside from the purring, which is obviously a characteristic of cats, was the idea of 9 lives. So I decided I'm going to call this Brix 9 Lives, and that's going to be the name of the piece when it's done. And in keeping with that idea of 9 lives, I wanted to try and make use of nines pretty much everywhere. I tried doing it with only 9 tracks, but I needed a bit more, so I ended up with 11 tracks. But one of the things I did was I decided on a 9/4 time signature. Now this is not 3 units of 3/4. It's actually 1 unit of 9/4 carried out across the entire piece. The other thing I was going to do is when I originally started putting this together, I was doing it at 99 beats per minute. However, as the piece started to develop, I was going way beyond the 1 minute mark, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I decided to increase the tempo to 144, which is still a multiple of 9. It's a little bit fast maybe, but at least it allows me to fit everything into the 1 minute limitation. So with all that said, let me share a little bit of what I created here. Now these tracks that you see on my screen, I'm using Ableton Live version 12, by the way. These tracks on my screen are not necessarily created in the order in which I built the patches. These are now ordered kind of in the order in which they start showing up and that sort of thing. But so I'll just go through them one at a time. And so this first patch I created as a it's a pad, and in order to make this work, I needed to go with high sustain and a higher release. But there's only one instance of the part, and I've added in a filter, a delay, and a reverb on the rack. And on the effects, I added in a little bit of analog distortion and a shimmer reverb. So that sounds like this. I hope you can hear this. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have soloed that. You're hearing one of the other tracks come in here as well. There you go. So it's just the pad. It's got a nice long reverb tail on it. You can see that it's playing even as the clip has ended. So it's going to last quite a while. The next track is this thing I called a cat reverse phased delay. Now, there's a funny little problem with SoundPaint that I just recently discovered. If I solo this track and try and play it, you'll see that there's no sound. There's no sound. And why is that? Well, there seems to be a bug in SoundPaint that even though I've saved this as a patch, when I reload it, for some reason, this is in reverse, all right? So what I have to do is unreverse it, go back to default, and then re-reverse it. Close that. And now it will play. So you can hear what it sounds like now. So how did I create that? Again, one instance of the part. I threw in, let's go on the racks first of all. Increase the attack, reduce the decay a bit, maximum sustain, and extend the release to the maximum. Well, not quite the maximum. And then on the effects, I used a phaser and a scatter delay to give it the kind of result that I was looking for. So again, it sounds like this. It's kind of a cool sound, and you see it comes in just kind of, I don't know, a few seconds in after the start of the piece, and I repeat it 3 times throughout the piece. The next one is called the Thunder Purr. This one is kind of interesting. I wanted to get something that sounded deep and growly, so I took the main purr sound that's available, And there are three different key elements that contain that purr, and each one is in a slightly different pitch. So I use that idea on my racks. I don't think I did anything on the racks in this case. This one's pretty much all effects. I used a rain delay, and just to give it the kind of sound I wanted. So let's solo that, and you can hear what that sounds like. So it actually rings out for quite a long time, but it's got a nice deep growly sound to it that I kind of like. All right, next. Now, when I was looking at drum kind of sounds, I originally was going to have all of them on the same track, but I noticed that depending on the effects that I set, the kick would sound really good, but the hi-hats would sound terrible. So I had to actually separate them out. And basically, I created 4 or 5 different 5 copies of the same patch, but each one has the effects set differently. So we'll look at the kick first. And really, if I look at the rack, I think, yeah, there's nothing done on the rack. It's all effects. So I have an EQ set to kind of beef up the bassy tone and kill out a little bit of the middle and raise up the high end a little bit, because I want to get a bit of a sizzle on the kick. And then also I added a bit of analog distortion. For those of you who are sound designers, you're probably cringing at some of the things I'm doing, because I am not a sound designer. I'm a composer. But nevertheless, I was having fun with this. So here's what the kick sounds like. Oh, one of the other things I did on this was I reduced the pitch down by 10 semitones to kind of get a little bit of a deeper sound. Also, if you're not familiar with, well, maybe if you are, even if you are familiar with Ableton Live, one of the things I do, and I do this quite regularly actually. So I select all my notes, and you'll notice that I've got just a variety of velocities set for these. Some of them are set quite low. But you see this kind of gray space above? That's to allow a little bit of random velocity, if you like, a padding or something. So sometimes these sounds can be a little bit louder than their original velocities. The other thing that I do, if you notice further down, let me pull this up a bit so you can see this. So I use a chance algorithm a lot. And the results of the chants are going to depend on the individual notes that I select. So let's pick this note here, and you can see these values are set to different chance levels. So this one is at 100%, but this one is at 85%. So it's not always going to sound. This one's at 100 again, and so forth. A few others, like these ones here, for example, are at very low settings. So those are intended to throw in ghost notes every once in a while to give a slightly different variation of the sound. And then this one up here, let me move this out of the way. There we go. This one here is about, what have I got, 77%. So it does sound occasionally. Its sound originally, can you hear that? It's almost like a reverse kick sound, but it just appears at random. So let me play that again for you so you can see what that sounds like. Okay, so that's the idea, and so I did the same sort of thing for the hats and for the well, not the purr. I'll get to that one in a minute. The snare and the percussion. I used the same basic idea on the velocity and on the chants. Hi-hats. What did I do here? Well, let's pull up the SoundPate instance, and this is my hi-hats. I pitch everything up by 12 notes, and I'm using different key values on here. Notice it's just using the default mode here. I didn't use one key stretch or anything like that. In terms of the racks, I used the part ADSR And the part ADSR is just basically a very quick attack, a moderate decay, no sustain, and no release to get a kind of a snappy pitched sound. And then as far as the time, I adjusted that a little bit to give me slightly different variations on the sound. In the effects, I use an EQ to beef up the high end and pretty much kill the low end. I use a granular reverb. I use an analog filter. I use digital distortion and a bucket brigade delay, and also a bit brush. So all of these, I played around with different orderings and stuff like that to see how it would sound, and eventually I got to this sound that I kind of like in this way. So let me show you that one. Here we go. So it's not really a high volume thing, but you can hear that it's clicking a lot. I kind of like this what I call a glitchy hi-hat feel. Anyway, that's that one. All right, what else did I do here? Oh, let's go to this Brix purr. Well, everybody's heard the purr, I'm sure, because it's one of the most predominant notes on the entire patch that Troels gave us. Not the patch, the part, I guess. And so in my case, what I did, so I have this I'm using the cat purr. I selected, notice that this is panning. So I have a LFO1 set to, what is that set to? Let me see for a second here. It's set to frequency, 0.2 hertz. So it's manual frequency, and it's only, 52% left or 52% right instead of 100% left and right. And so it just moves back and forth. It's not synced this time. That's how I created that effect. On the effects themselves, I like the rain delay, a moderate amount of rain delay on this. It just gives it a really nice sound. So I'm going to play that one for you now. I get back over here. We can close this. Don't need it. And we'll get over here and just play that. Now, the interesting thing about that is this sound has been attached to multiple keys, and I just chose all 5 of them in sequence, and it just gives it a really cool sound. Again, so you can hear it moving in the stereo field, and the pitch is changing slightly. Kind of cool. I like it. Now, my idea of a snare, you're going to probably laugh at this, but let me pull that up. All right, here we go. Again, one instance of the part, and I set the attack very, very quick, a decay about, almost 1.5 or 1.2 seconds, no sustain and no release to keep it low. As far as the time offset is concerned, that I didn't do anything with that. I don't know why that's even there, actually. Now, effects. So again, EQ, this time I beef up the middle range, bring down the bass and a little bit of the high end. I wanted this to fit right in the middle somewhere. And then I use another rain delay and a filter and a plate reverb. So those are that's it. That's all I did with this one. Let's take a listen to that. Okay. Here's the snare. See, I guess it sounds more like I don't know, wood blocks or something like that. But it has a cool sound. I like it. And there's a little bit of tail in the reverb. It's pretty nice. So I like that sound. The next was my percussion. I just wanted to get a variety of percussion sounds in here. Again, just one instance of the part. And I have an EQ set on the effects. And I've got a filter, phaser, delay, and reverb on the rack. So yeah, not much to show there, but now you can hear the percussion. Let me close this again. Percussion. Whoops, I've got to solo this. There we go. Try that again. So it's giving It's again kind of glitchy to fit in with the hi-hats. It's pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play all of the percussion elements together so you can hear how they sound. And what's interesting about this is, again, because of that process of using chants on the MIDI track, I'm able to get sounds that sometimes occur and then sometimes they disappear. All right, now let's take a look at the bass. Now we're getting into some melodic stuff, which was a little bit harder in my opinion. There's really only a couple of keys on the patch or on the part that are tunable. So what I did was I created two different instances of the part. One of them pitched up by 11 semitones, and I added on the racks. I just played. Now there's not really much here, but the part I've got slightly different attack, decay, sustain, longer release on these, and they're slightly different. Okay, just for these two parts. The effects, I used a compressor and an Oberheim filter. That was it, just to get the sound I was looking for. So here's what the bass sounds like. Now you can feel the 9 count coming in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2. Yeah, so that's how I did that. Now the Brix phased pad, this was kind of an interesting idea. I wanted to have something where I could play chords. So again, I had to use the same basic notes as I used for the bass. But I originally had 4 instances of the part here, and one of them I ended up just turning off. But you can see I've got 3 of them, and I've got them all pitched up at 12 notes. With this one, I've got a high-speed LFO on here to modify the micro pitch, and a slightly slower LFO on this one to modify the tone. We can take a look at those more closely if you like. So on the micro pitch, it's at 1/64th rate and synced up. The tone is at 1 bar rate, and it's also synced up. The range of movement is kind of limited for the tone, and a little bit narrower for the micro pitch. So that's how I created that. And I think I learned this trick from Troels on one of his videos. So thank you for that, Troels. Anyway, that's what this phased pad is set up for. I've got a phaser basically on each of the parts through the rack. And then the effects themselves, I've got some distortion, a digital delay, a granular reverb. That's it. Mostly, I think, moderate, except for the delay. I've got a pretty high feedback on the delay, and a pretty high boost on the distortion. So I'm going to play that one for you now. That's the phased pad. Turn that off, turn this on, and we'll come here. So you can hear the distortion in there, kind of mangling the sound a little bit. But again, the reverb tail is hanging on, and it's lasting quite a bit on the end. And then finally, of course, what would a song be without a little bit of an arpeggiation? So I created another instance with three instances of the part. The racks, what did I do on the racks? I think it was just part ADSR. I think each one has a slightly different attack, decay, and release. No, they're all the same. What am I saying? So I guess I must have just set them all the same way. No changes to the pitch this time, and no LFOs operating on this one. So everything is coming from the effect. So I've got digital distortion. I've got a compressor. I've got an Oberheim filter, a scatter delay, and then I threw a gate on in this because I thought that would be fun. Now, to go look, let's look at the ARP. It's a very, very simple ARP. It's just, creating a few notes in there at different different velocities. And what else did I do? It's a 1/8 repeat. So let me just go back to the effects. I'll turn off the gate so you can hear what the ARP sounds like by itself. Whoops. Don't know what I just did there. I accidentally made this really small. Not what I wanted to do. I can fix that later. So anyway, if you go back to the ARP and just play that. So that's what it sounds like with just the ARP playing. Let me put the gate back on, and you'll see that it kind of mangles the sound a little bit, making it really kind of interesting. So those are the sounds that I created. I think I must have done something like that to resize this thing. That's what I did. I wasn't really paying attention. Anyway, I will close that now, and I will unsolo everything and play the whole thing back to you so you can hear it all together. This, of course, is raw. This is just the MIDI. I haven't actually rendered it out. I'm going to have to do that separately, but this is approximately what it's going to sound like. All right, so there you go. I managed to squeeze it into 1 minute, although the reverb tail at the end here is going to probably stretch it out a little bit too long. Yeah, I know I'm not a sound designer, so forgive me for that. But I have fun creating this, and I'm going to render it all out, and then I'm going to do just a little bit of audio processing to put things in the proper space and get the volume levels right and everything. But that's basically my process. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you're participating in the contest and sharing your music as well. So I look forward to seeing what other people create. Thanks very much. This is D.D. McLeod Soul Speak saying bye-bye for now.